Hello, everyone. This is APO Sports, and we're going to be breaking down tomorrow's game between the Indiana Fever and the Minnesota Lynx. Let's get into it. All right, so this is a big game for the Indiana Fever tomorrow. Right now, they're not being given many chances to win this game. Um, and the Minnesota Lynx really look unstoppable. So since the All-Star and Olympic break, the Lynx have come back and they've won every game. They've actually played 4 games, which is a lot, right? So they've got to be tired, but they've played 4 games, 2 against the Mystics, 2 against the Aces. So of course they beat all 4 of them. The impressive thing here is that they beat the Aces twice, one in their home court and one in the Aces home court. So they're on a roll. The downside for Minnesota is the fact that they've been playing a lot. This is their 5th game in about 8 days. So there's a lot of potentially there should be some fatigue in there, and this is also going to be a back-to-back against the Fever, a team that loves to run, and they're going to be with fresh legs, right? So the Fever hasn't played a game in 5 days. So essentially, what, since last Sunday, I think it was Sunday, Saturday, I can't remember. They're in a little bit of trouble because the Fever, as we know, they love to run, they love to press, and they love to push the pace. So this is going to be an interesting challenge for the Lynx. And another interesting fact here is that they've won, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4. They've won 5 games in a row. The last game they lost being against the Indiana Fever as well. Of course, it's been over a month since then, so it's a different team. Plus, Minnesota didn't have Collier, who's playing like an MVP right now. So at the beginning of the season, well, not the beginning, really up until the Olympic break, we all thought that Aja Wilson was going to win the MVP unanimously. But things are changing, especially given the play of the Aces, which they've been losing, right? Right now, really, if we look at this thing, the Fever are only 4 games behind the Aces for the 4th spot or the 5th spot in the standings. So the Aces are not looking good, and that is not, regardless of the numbers that she's putting up, although she's struggled these last couple of games, regardless of the numbers that she's putting up, these are not unanimous MVP type numbers. And in my opinion, Collier is making a case right now for MVP as well. So I would not be surprised if she gets some votes. And also would not be surprised if Caitlin Clark gets some MVP votes as well. So if we look back at the matchup, this happened on July 15th between the Indiana Fever and the Minnesota Lynx. So this was the first matchup. Uh, like we said, Collier did not play, but also Caitlin Clark did not play that good at all. Uh, I mean, she did have 17 points, but she was on 5 of 17 shooting. She was 2 of 11 from 3. Of course, 6 turnovers, only 6 assists. So she was not that effective in that game. We had Kelsey Mitchell had a pretty good game, but still 8 of 18 from the floor, 3 of 9 from 3. Now Boston had a monster game, as she tends to do, but she has 17 points and 16 rebounds. So hopefully keep that up. But really, the Fever as a whole did not have a good game. And Minnesota is a tremendous defensive team. That's their strength, right? I actually think that the Fever are better than Minnesota offensively, but the difference between the two teams is in the defense. And Minnesota has much better defensive team than the Fever. But having said all of that, I do believe that the Fever will win this game. It's going to be somewhat of an emotional night, right? You're going to have Maya Moore. So the Minnesota Lynx are going to be retiring Maya Moore's jersey during this game. And as we know, Caitlin Clark looks up to Maya Moore, and she kind of modeled her game. And she was a huge fan of Maya Moore growing up. So this is going to be an interesting night. This is the night that they decided to retire Maya Moore's jersey. And we continue the entire, the Minnesota coach animosity kind of and hatred against Caitlin Clark. And even if that's the case or it isn't the case, that's the perception. That's what's making the rounds. That's what people are talking about on social media, is how Cheryl Reeves, every chance that she gets, she tries to, either dismiss or discredit Caitlin Clark or not even mention her at all. That's kind of the new thing to do now, right? Is just not even mention her, like Cheryl Swoops, right? There's something going on with the Cheryls in that they do not want to give any credit to Caitlin Clark, who is playing amazing, who's changing the game, who's bringing so many new fans into the league, including myself. Like, I would never cover the WNBA if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark. But I think the Indiana Fever pull it off. It'd be a huge win if they can make this happen, because it would give them, another win that they need, and then just inching them closer. It would put them having a game and a half from the sixth spot, the Phoenix Mercury, who has a very tough schedule coming up. So if the Fever win right now, the Mercury have a bunch of tough games coming up with a lot of good teams. And then it would put them 3.5 games from the Aces. So really, this game could potentially catapult the Fever to, I don't know. I mean, depending on how the rest of the season continues to shape up, they could potentially end up with the 4th or 5th seed. I don't think they catch Minnesota. There's 3 teams that the Fever will never catch this season, no matter what the hell happens. And that is the New York Liberty, the Connecticut Sun, and the Minnesota Lynx. Like, there's no way they catch those 3. But they could catch the Storm, the Aces, and the Mercury, depending on how they continue to play. So although right now the Fever, like I said before, they're super underdogs in this game, they're not favored to win at all. Vegas is not giving them much of a chance. But I do think, just based on Minnesota's schedule since the Olympic break, also the fact that this is a back-to-back game right after a tough game against the Aces, and the fact that the Fever love to run, press, and then they push the pace. I just don't know if their legs are gonna be there for shooting, for defense, just making sure that you're keeping up. So you have to sacrifice something if you're gonna go all out on defense. You don't have the legs to then go and be effective on offense. And Indiana is super fresh. The last time that they played was 5 days ago. And we already know how they tend to play. Caitlin Clark is a lot more effective and efficient when she has this much of a rest, this much of a break. So I actually think the Fever will win this game by about 10 points. So the final score, I think, is going to be 92-82. And the Fever will win and go up 14-15 in the season. So let me know what you think. What's going to happen during tomorrow's game. If you think the Fever are going to win, if you think Minnesota is going to win, who do you think is going to have a huge game? So if you have any of those comments or thoughts, just leave them in the comments below. But that's it for today's video, and we'll have a video right after the games. We'll have a post-game video as well. So, all right, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.